What's up, everyone, and welcome back to the Kumite Lifestyle Podcast. Today, we're joined by Gilbert Raposa, a Gracie Jiu-Jitsu black belt, lifelong student, and instructor whose journey shows how powerful this art can be when you fully commit to it. Gilbert didn't grow up in martial arts, but once he stepped on the mat, everything changed, leading him through the highs and lows of training, teaching, and finding purpose beyond just chasing belts. In this episode, we talk about mindset, patience, growth through adversity, and what it truly means to carry jiu-jitsu as a lifestyle, including his experiences teaching across different parts of the world and giving back to the community that helped shape him. If you train, teach, or simply want to live with more intention and discipline, this conversation will resonate with you and leave you motivated long after it ends. What's up, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Kumite Lifestyle. And today we're joined by none other than Gilbert Raposa. Did I say that correctly?
Raposa, yeah.
Perfect. And Gilbert, I know you're all the way joining us from the West Coast, so huge shout out to the California, a little Cali love there. So Gilbert, how's it going
Yep.
today?
Dude, I'm doing great. Just living the life, doing jujitsu.
Yeah, absolutely. And for those out there, so um, there's a lot of jujitsu guests that I've had on. I've had entrepreneurs, coaches, athletes. So the reason why I wanted to bring you on today, bro, is because so just so everyone knows, when I met you for the first time, it was around this time last year at Grace University, and I knew who you were just in passing. I'd never seen you in person because I think the last couple of years, and we'll get to this, you were away traveling, and I know you're
Right?
also teaching jujitsu, which I definitely want to dive into. But my first memory of you was just very welcoming, and we had a chance to spar. And you gave me some good feedback,
Yeah,
so I felt that instant connection right away.
yeah, for
And
sure.
like I always gravitate towards people like that, just that same mindset. So I know we had that jujitsu connection. So yeah, let's start off with that. So I know you're currently a black belt and you're living out in California, like you said, and you're training
Hmm.
at Grace University headquarters. No
Right?
big deal, right? So I think that's pretty awesome. So let's go back in time. When did you start martial arts, and like was jujitsu the first thing that you started with?
Yeah, so I've kind of got an interesting story about my venture into jujitsu. I've never been into martial arts growing up. Growing up, I was put into swimming, so I was a competitive swimmer for most all my life. And then, once I got out of college, I wasn't really doing much. And so I have a cousin. He also does jujitsu. He is the one who's actually the lifelong martial artist. He's done, kung fu, Wing Chun, Taekwondo, all those kind of things. And I remember this was like maybe around 2008, nine, something like that. And he was like, "Hey, you got to really try this thing. It's called jujitsu." And to me, I was kind of like, "Oh yeah, this is just my cousin, like, another one of his hobbies that he's into, another one of his martial arts." But he's like, "No, you would really like it. You would really, love doing it." And I would go to his house, and he'd be like, "Here, let me show you something." And he would just like flip me on my head, and he'd be like, wasn't that cool?" And I'd be like, it's like, I don't know. I think so. Like, I don't know. So, I was in college at the time. So like, I didn't really have a lot of money, one, and two, just a lot of extra free time to start another hobby. And so, I mean, you're a little bit familiar. We live in the LA area, but LA is like so expansive, right? So we kind of live in the northern part of LA, not even considered LA anymore. We in a city called Burbank. And so he was saying like, yeah, I do jujitsu at this place, Gracie Academy at the time, out in Torrance, California, on Artesia Boulevard. And I'm like, you go all the way over there for jujitsu? Like that's 35 miles from us. And he's like,
Yeah.
no, it's the best. I researched it all. It's the only place I would go. And be like, okay, like I don't know what he's into because like I didn't really have familiarity with martial arts. So I remember one time he got another one of his friends into jujitsu and he started doing it too. And I'm like, man, both of these guys are doing jujitsu. We got a little get together going, the one friend, and we did like a little mini seminar with Henner, did like a little combatives, like 101 type seminar. And I went to it. Um, because they almost forced me to. And I was just sitting there watching, and I'm like, this is kind of cool. This is Henner Gracie. I don't really know this guy, but he seems quite compelling.
Yeah.
But all the stuff that he's showing right now, yeah, I'm not a fighter. I could do that, you know? And so I was like, okay, like I could consider it. But still, again, the time, the distance, the money, I'm still in school, it wasn't working. So, a couple of years passed, and my cousin actually, his line of work is video editing. So he was actually doing some work for Hiron and Henner as far as like editing bully-proof videos and like promotional stuff. And he told me one time, he said, "Hey, Gilbert, I gotta go down to jujitsu. I gotta pick some stuff up. You're gonna come with me. And we'll go do whatever afterwards." I said, "Okay, whatever." Um, this was already about 2011, so I was already graduated from college. So I went with him. We went down there to the old Artesia Academy, and he was like, when we got there, he was like, "Okay, you're going to take class today." And I was like, "Okay." And so I wasn't expecting it. He kind of like tricked me into doing it. But I, from what I remember all those years ago, is I took the class that day and I haven't stopped since.
Yeah.
So that was like my beginning. And so now I'm here. Like you said, it resulted in me having a career in jujitsu, traveling the world, and I couldn't be any happier. So I got to thank my cousin for getting me into it. His name is Jay. He's also a very nice guy, so you should meet him one time. He's now a black belt too, which is awesome for me. We're both black belts in jujitsu, which is I think it's a kind of a rare thing.
Yeah. What's his last name? Jay.
His name is Jay Mapala.
Okay.
So he was doing a lot of
Is he Gracie
training with
University as well? Is
he was for a very long time. He
okay.
was doing privates with Alex Stewart.
Yeah.
But since he's moved even a little bit further north from here, so he's now training at another place, not Gracie University affiliated, but he's still doing jujitsu. So
Sure.
again, it's just amazing that he and I have this shared passion together all
Yeah.
these years later.
Yeah, it's always interesting how we start, right? Because we never know what life has in store, as they say, not to sound cliche, but it's just the honest truth. And it's like it was just that one day, right? And it kind of like, started, it kind of as they say, like a domino effect, for the rest of your early progression in your life, because I know jujitsu is an ongoing thing. And I think that's amazing how like when you watched Henner show moves, you're like, okay, I can do that. And that's the beauty of our system. So for anyone watching Grace University, it is jujitsu, but how we teach. So as instructors, we go through this rigorous 6 month process. And actually, I think I'll be out at ICP next week, so hopefully I'll get a chance to see you. But
Definitely, definitely.
yeah, and yeah, it's just another lens. And like, one thing that I want to ask, because I know you're a black belt, you've been training for a while now,
Hmm.
is if you can talk about the mindset that you had when you first started jujitsu, if you can kind of conceptualize that, and
Yeah,
where your mindset is now, because we just had a great talk. So my instructor is Howard Steele, of course, and
yeah.
so we talk about how like jujitsu is kind of like a vehicle in life. There's a lot of great mat lessons that we learn, but man, like all those principles, it really does apply to everyday life. So I'm curious, as a black belt, and for all your experience that you've had, Gilbert, if you can kind of summarize it in the best way you can, like what's your mindset now in life with jujitsu compared to life like before you started jujitsu?
Yeah, it's very interesting. So I am a black belt, but I've been doing jujitsu now. This summer will be 15 years. And how long have you been training, Nick?
10 years. I started in 2015.
So that's quite a long time too, right?
Sure.
And I think when you're first starting jujitsu, like I said, for me, that's why the beginnings for me, like my white belt days, were very fuzzy, is because I was drawn to it in maybe not a normal way. Like I sought it out. Like I was
Yeah.
just like, okay, I'm 26. I have some free time. I'm working right now, so I have some money to spend. So let me just start this new hobby. And you don't really know what it means, even while you're first doing it. But I knew that when I first started, I was like, yeah, I'm not a fighter. Like maybe, you know, your viewers can't see on this video, but I'm a quite small person. I'm only 5'2",
Same here,
but
bro.
So I've never been into fighting. I've never, been into, be very confrontational. So, like when it comes to self-defense or martial arts, like, like when Henner was, saying like, unless you're a trained striker or if you know how to punch or kick, like, don't expect, that to be reliable for you. And in my head, I'm like, that's true. Like, I don't think I could punch anybody. Like, I don't even know how to do that. But whatever he's doing right there, taking the back, holding somebody down, moving to this position, I was like, I could do that.
Yeah.
Like that makes sense to me. So yeah, you go through the program, and I think, especially with jujitsu, which is kind of related to how I feel now, it's like you don't know what you don't know at the beginning.
Yeah.
The curriculum is great because they just start to tell you these things are what you need to know. But like again, you have to remember this is like 2011, right? And the popularity of jujitsu at that time wasn't as it was now. So even things like YouTube and Instagram, like it just there was not a lot of jujitsu out there,
Yeah.
right? So I don't see it all day on my phone. I can't look it up on the internet as easily. So you're only going to this spot, it takes me over an hour to get to, and I just do my one little class. Like, okay, that was fun. I did exercise. Okay. For whatever reason, like I was able to do combatives, our beginner curriculum, in about 6 months. I wouldn't recommend that to anybody, but for whatever reason, like I said, it just made sense to me. And I didn't really pass, well, I passed the test, but not like perfect.
Hmm.
But I still did good. And at the time, um, people were passing their combatives test and getting their blue belts right away. So I got my blue belt in 6 months. And I know people have contention about it, but hey, I'm still here. So,
Yeah.
say what you
Exactly.
want to say.
Exactly.
Um, so I got my blue belt December of 2011, or yeah, December of 2011, and I went right into master cycle. So I think once you start to get past that 6 months, 8 months, then you're like, okay, this is not like a new thing for me anymore. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you're starting to like dig your feet in a little bit. It's like beginning to be part of your lifestyle. And you know how it is when you start blue belt, you go into master cycle, and that can be like a tough cliff to climb. And I remember like, okay, like I just spent all this time practicing and I think I get it. And I tell you, I was like, okay, when I first started sparring, I was like, this sucks. Like, I'm ready to quit now. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Um, and I think Gracie University and even just jujitsu across the board has taken great steps to kind of minimize that for people. But again, this is many years ago when, you know, in 2011, 2012, there are guys who have been training for 10 years then too, starting back in the old school days of jujitsu. And, people, you hear all the stories of how, like, gritty and grimy it was back then. So yeah, I'm a blue belt, small guy, just getting my butt kicked left and right. And I promise you, about three times I can recall, three times where I was truly going to quit. And, whatever happened, somebody talked to me, somebody saw me, and they just pulled me back in. And I think partly to do with my cousin as well,
Yeah.
because when I got my blue belt, he got his purple belt. So he was already like 4 or 5 years deep into it. And so it's like, I don't think, even if I wanted to in my head, he would have actually let me quit. But it happens.
Yeah.
And so what I was asking you earlier about like how long you've been doing at jujitsu, it's like once you cross that first hurdle of saying, you know what, this is my thing now, my quitting mindset is gone. I'm pretty proficient. I can understand stuff. I think you just kind of settle in and you say, you know what, one day, like, well, sorry, you decide, like, okay, I'm going to do this forever. But then you kind of say, like, okay, you know what, one day I'm going to be a black belt. I don't know when that is, but you'll get there, right?
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
that's 10 years from now, 12 years from now, but you're going to get there.
Yeah.
But I think what they don't prepare you for which is kind of what I'm alluding to now, is like, yes, okay, you get your black belt, but then they also don't, you can't really maybe conceptualize how far down the line that goes, where I've been a black belt now for 6 years. And so it's like when you're so early on, it's like to see that far away, it's too hard, you
Yeah.
know? It's kind of like one of those things too, which I was asking like the kids in the kids class. It's like, when you're growing up and somebody says like, well, what do you want to do when you grow up? You're 7 or 8 years old and you're like, oh, I want to be a doctor or uh, like a pilot or something like that. And like, what age is that? If you're 8, you're saying like, okay, like when I'm 22 or 23, I'm a pilot, but they never prepare you for like being a pilot for 10 years or 15 years, that extra, like what's happening beyond then, because you reached what you wanted to or some sort of landmark, but then you're still there. And so like there's not a lot of like maybe talk of like what happens in now that you've reached that phase, right?
Yeah.
So my mindset now as a black belt, I think, kind of goes to more like purpose driven, like what am I doing this for? And um like I don't claim to know everything in jujitsu. Like I think that would be like a great fault for anybody, any sort of instructor to say like, yeah, I know everything already.
Sure.
So definitely having that mindset of like, okay, there's always something to learn. And I do teach at 2 schools here in the LA area because it's just like that. You can do that. Gracie Jiu-Jitsu Pasadena, shout out to Fred over there and the guys. And then Gracie Jiu-Jitsu Santa Clarita to my guy Jason Shaughnessy over there, great guys too. But like you said, I still train for myself at Gracie University,
Yeah.
and I love taking classes from all the instructors out there because there's always still something to learn, and I still love like being a student myself. So sorry to make this a little bit roundabout, but you know, the reason why I teach jujitsu and the reason why I still stay doing jujitsu is that when I first started, I had a lot of great people that help me get to where I am today. And so, like for me, like I can only pay that forward to other people. Whether that's adults or kids or anybody who wants to do jujitsu. So yeah, that's kind of my story in a nutshell.
Yeah.
And that's where I am now.
Absolutely, bro. And that's a really good reflection. And I appreciate you breaking that down. And there's a lot to unpack there. So a couple things that you said that really stood out to me, and I think that can really resonate with, our audience is, well, one, you said about being 5'2", and like, because I'm also not the tallest person either.
Yeah,
So I think that was another reason that I think I kind of gravitated towards you initially, was because like, oh, okay, this is someone that's walked the path, obviously been doing it, just a little bit longer than me. And, he gets it, and like, I didn't even have to roll with you or even talk to you to kind of know. You kind of just had that quiet confidence about yourself. And then you touched on like the different rank systems and like how we feel at different ranks. And dude, you're so right about the white belt kind of being like that blurry line.
yeah.
I made a video recently, and it kind of touches on those different ranks. I just got my brown belt last month or
Yeah. Congratulations,
last
brother.
year. Yeah, thank you, bro. But that didn't come without, the realization of also like, man, like because when I started this 10 years ago, I'd always loved jujitsu and I kind of dabbled it even before I officially started. I wrestled in high school, so I was very familiar with grappling.
Hmm.
And like yourself, I would see someone do a triangle or, take the back or even like a elbow escape or trap or roll, not even knowing what the moves actually were called. And I'm probably just citing like, I don't know, past UFC fights I would see, like, someone small, I'm thinking, okay, like if they can do it, I can do it. It's just like understanding the philosophy behind it. So like when we talk about the ranks themselves, it's like white belt is kind of like that level where you have permission to fail. Like no one's really judging you, but as the student, you're very judgmental of yourself because you're doing things for the first time with your body. Unless you've grappled before, or, I guess athletic, but like you're learning how to fail and kind of be embarrassed in front of a partner, and I think that's huge because I feel like people don't consider that. And then you're also learning how to basically relearn how to learn again. Because
Absolutely.
yeah, and then I feel like once you get to blue belt, and you said so, you're like yeah, like yourself, like you have some base knowledge of
Yeah.
jiu-jitsu, but you start to see how big that mountain is, and then it's like,
Yeah.
oh, I thought I knew something, but I really don't. And then you start doubting yourself, and that's why, like, I think the saying is what, like a blue belt blues. That's why so many people drop off at blue
Absolutely.
belt. But for those that can survive that grind, or just that, like those obstacles over the next 4 or 5 years, if you will, um, yeah, because again, it's a journey. And then when people get the purple belt, Gilbert, and I'm wondering what your thought is on this, but for myself, I realized that purple belt, that's when people started to look at me a little bit different, and they respected me more from a jiu-jitsu sense.
Yeah.
That's where my game started to develop, because I've
Yeah.
already learned the defense mindset, defend, escape, control, submit, that we been brought up with, and that's always preached to us. And now as a brown belt, bro, it's like, man, am I doing all those things that I'm preaching to my students, or the people that I connect with? So I feel like, yes, I am doing that. It feels great, but I know there's so much more, and black belts in the future. But I guess my goal now, and my mindset is living up to the brown belt. And I mean, it's only been a month, but it's been fun, man. And I kind of feel like it's almost like not brown belt energy, but I feel like this is cool, I'm still learning, like you said, that white belt mindset, but it is interesting how our mind shifts at each belt rank, as in it should accordingly.
I agree. Excuse me. I agree. And definitely, you said you touch on the right thing. You said it's been fun as a brown belt, and I think that's the thing. Is because you're just so locked in already. It's like I don't think you're going to go anywhere at this point. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's just like not like you're coasting to the finish line, but like there's this comfortability that you're at. That hey, one day, sooner than later, that black belt's going to come. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Because it's not like you're going to be a brown belt for 10 more years,
Yeah.
right? And, will you be a brown belt for 5 years? I think even that's like at this point, especially with you as an instructor, like that's still far-fetched. So 2 years, 3 years, 2.5 years, something like that. So it's like, it's just like right there. So you're not going to go anywhere. You got
Yeah.
your life already set in jujitsu. So it's just like, hey, just keep doing your thing. That's why you can only be content. You can only be happy. There's no pressure anymore, right?
Yeah.
Um, but going back to like what you said earlier, like those blue belt blues, I think it's a real thing. It's a different experience for everybody. But
Sure.
now looking back in retrospect as a black belt, and I tell this to all the students all the time, is that unlike many other hobbies out there, jujitsu is the gift that keeps on giving. And what I mean by that is that, yes, at Blue Belt, you look out into the distance and there's thousands and thousands of techniques and they're growing every day. And a part of you is like, oh my gosh, like it's just so overwhelming. I'll never learn this all. I'm
Yeah.
still not good at this stuff. I'm just going to give up.
Yeah.
Or you can think like, you know what? Like of all the hobbies that are out there, whatever you want to say, painting or other martial arts or sports, like there's an infinite amount of possibilities that you can conceptualize in your head. And I'll never get bored of it, Like I always say this example of like, you have to go to like the DMV or you're waiting in the doctor's office and there's like an hour wait and you're sitting there and you could just be bored out of your mind or scroll on your phone. But for me, I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, like if I put my leg here and I do this and like, oh, wait, these two moves can go together. And you know what I mean? It's just like this infinite like pool of entertainment for yourself for the rest of your life. So if you can kind of shift your mindset at blue belt to say like, you know what, there is a lot to learn, but there's time to learn, and it'll just keep going. Then I think that will help a lot of people rather than getting overwhelmed and saying like, oh, it's too much. Because, once you put that pressure on yourself, then you have that expectation of like performing, right? And we know that how that can affect people all the time, right?
Yeah.
And then, when I did get you're right, I like this because the stories are similar with everybody at these belt levels. And, at purple belt, it was like, oh, like that's when I was like, okay, I get it now. as
Hmm.
in like, okay, I see what we're trying to do here.
Yeah.
Right? So there's like two really quick stories that I tell people. Like I felt like, again, jujitsu was coming to me relatively easy, even though it was tough. Like I could understand what we're supposed to do. I could remember moves pretty well. And I remember one time I was rolling with Henner, um, and doing all these moves, like trying to show him all the cool stuff that I did, triple threat from the back, trying to choke him, blah, blah, blah. And then boom, my arm locked him. And I was like, yeah, he tapped. And then he turned to me and he looked at me and he said, why did you do that? And I was like, well, why did I do the arm lock? Like, why did I do that? And like in my head, I was like, I kind of confused because I was like, isn't that what I'm supposed to do? I'm just supposed to do these moves. And like you showed the whole thing just in class of triple threat.
Yeah.
But I feel like what he was getting to me, like his biggest criticism of me at that time as a blue belt was that I was a little bit out of control. And I kind of
Mm.
didn't get it at the time. So I think what he was trying to tell me when he said, why did you do that? Meaning like, don't just do techniques because you can do them, like really think of like, well, is that the most appropriate move at this point based on my indicators to you?
Yeah.
Right. So that really kind of like took me back as in like, oh, I thought I was just doing jujitsu, but he was trying to get me to think deeper about why I was doing what I was doing. Okay. So that kind of was like, okay, I guess that's true. Like I I can do an arm lock from the back, but should I do it? Is that the most appropriate thing at this point? And so, you know, that was that story. So that really changed. So again, really trying to think of like, okay, what am I trying to do in this situation? Okay, and then I had another time. I trained a lot with Alex Stewart
Mhm.
in the mornings, and his big thing at the time, I don't know if you've heard him say it, was a submission-free diet. Kind of just like this, kind of light phrase, meaning like the goal of jujitsu, especially when you're in training, is not always to submit your partner. That's not always the end goal because there's always many, many other things in jujitsu, and as a brown belt, that you can practice on: control, sweeping, defenses, stuff like that. And basically, his kind of term, his mindset of no submission free is like, okay, focus on everything else. And so I was like, okay, like let me just stop submitting to them. Like, let me just stop doing that part of jujitsu and seeing what else. And then, you're like, okay, you know what? I'm kind of like not that great at guard passing.
Mhm.
And it seems like every time I get to the mount, I fall off, you know? Um, and then I remember one time, like after doing it for a while, like I just remember I was rolling with this one student. I don't even know who it was at this point. And it just seemed like very much like the Matrix kind of thing where everything just like slowed down and like I could just seem like, okay, they're about to do this, they're gonna turn this way, and if I do this, they stick their arm up right now. And it was just like it all just hit me all at once. And I remember going up to Alex Stewart and I was like, I get it. I was like, I don't know how to explain what just happened, but I get it. And
Hmm.
that was kind of it. So that was probably closer to the end of my blue belt, and I just carried that on ever since then. Um, yeah, those are my two little stories about you know having a different mindset than what maybe many people would think that you're supposed to do in jujitsu.
Sure.
And I actually really attribute that to our organization, as far as like Gracie University, because as many people know, we're not necessarily competition focused, right? And so they just allow us to train and do and experience the martial art as an art,
Yeah.
right? And if you're calling it a martial art, then you have to take it like from like an artist's mindset,
Hmm.
right? And you have to kind of figure out then, what does this mean to me? How does this represent me, right? And again, yeah, you know, as a black belt, just carried that on ever since, you know?
Man, I love it. And yeah, I agree there where it's like at every belt level or kind of at different stages. So it sounds like to me you had like an epiphany at blue belt just having a
Yeah,
conversation with Alex
yeah,
Stewart. So
yeah.
huge shout out to all the instructors at Gracie University.
Big time.
Yeah, and now like so now that you are a black belt, as you were saying for the last 6 years, your understanding and how you not just see the world, but how you view jujitsu, I'm sure has changed
Hmm.
drastically. And speaking of the world, I know that you've had an opportunity
Yeah.
to travel to, I think it was Bahrain. So, man,
Hmm.
talk about that. And I also want to give a huge shout out to, and I've never met him in person, but Josh Taylor,
Oh
because I
yeah.
know that he was a CTC owner in England
Yeah.
originally, and then he transitioned a little bit over to Bahrain, and now he's back over in England. And I follow him on Instagram, but I haven't met him in person. But I've seen him grapple. Man, he's smooth, you know, and
If you get an opportunity, get in touch with him. He's a really cool guy.
yeah,
He's a really funny guy. He's unlike any other person I've met before. But it was a real blessing to have, excuse me, have him with me teaching side by side with him uh, in another country in Bahrain.
yeah,
And you know, it's just there's just some people, you know, you meet in this world where you just get along with each other. And I think he and I just had that. And, you know, I miss him to this day. I got to go visit him one of these days. But yeah,
yeah,
get in touch with him. He's a really cool guy.
yeah. That's
But
awesome.
so speaking on that, I went to the Kingdom of Bahrain. So 2020 happened. You know, I was teaching jujitsu out of my living room on Zoom, had Matt set up in my living room. And I was like, man, I don't know if I'm ever going to teach jujitsu again in person.
It was a crazy time.
So
I remember.
yeah, 2021 came. I remember I met up with Hiron. We just had breakfast one morning out near his house. And Hiron is just like a pretty, uh, I don't know how to say, like he has great ideas. There's always, he's a great ideas guy.
Hmm.
And he just simply said to me, he's like, how do you feel about going to Costa Rica? I'm like, oh, what? We were just having breakfast, just catching up after not seeing each other for a whole year. It's like, how do you feel about going to Costa Rica? I was like, you know what? In my head, I'm like, sure, I'll go to Costa Rica. I've never been to Costa Rica before. I've been trapped in my house
Yeah.
for 12 months or whatever. Yeah, for sure, I'll go to Costa Rica. So he set me up with a job out in Costa Rica. I was there like, you know, just like kind of the early part of 2021. And the idea was I was going to do jujitsu, maybe potentially start a CTC at this kind of, they call it like a surf resort out
Yeah.
there. But they also had like a fitness gym for the locals. And so that was the idea. Unfortunately, it didn't work out. I was out there for about 3 months and it was kind of wild. I was like living in the jungles, like riding around on like a little ATV every day and just like at the beach and just doing jujitsu. So that was fun. That was a great experience. And I love those guys out there too. But again, not that it was a failure that we didn't start at CTC. It just wasn't appropriate
Yeah.
for what they were trying to do over there.
Sure.
So I get that was like my first little taste of, you know, like, you know what? Like, I'm a black belt now. Like, I could take this black belt with me anywhere because I'm comfortable in what I know. And I've been teaching for long enough. And like, I could share my jujitsu not just here in California, where I've been living for the past, whatever, 18, 20 years, I could go wherever I want. And so I kind of just floated around 2021, not really working or doing anything. And by the end of the year, I just got another opportunity. They were like, headquarters contact me. They say, hey, uh, they're looking for an instructor, a black belt instructor, to go out to the Middle East and work there, and teach them, show them the ropes. They want to build up their school. And I was like, wow, like in all my life, I never would have thought that jujitsu would lead me to the Gulf Coast countries, right?
Yeah.
And so, you know what? I was like, you know what? Like, let's do it. I'm going. Like, if I can position myself out there, then I could probably go anywhere in the world from that point. So,
Was Josh there before you, or did you kind of swap with him in the transition? So, how did that work? Because I know he was out there for a bit. Was his was his assignment to do the same thing, help that CTC, and then you guys would kind of, kind of cross for
yeah,
a bit and then take over?
absolutely. So I
Nice.
went out there first.
Okay.
That was the goal. I think the guys over in Bahrain, really nice guys. Those guys took care of me so well. Shout out to those guys, Jossam, Amar, um, Eunice. Those guys were great. Um, but I went out there initially. They were just having a little bit of trouble because, sorry, you're in Delaware, is that what it is?
Yep.
You know, it, I think the goal of a lot of CTCs, what you know, Keenan and Head are looking for is to have a similar experience throughout each one of our schools, right? But if you haven't really spent a lot of time at headquarters around the big machine that is Gracie University, then maybe it's like kind of hard to understand why you do the things that you do.
Yep.
You know, there's a lot of like, CTC ownership is not for everybody, because we do require a lot of little things,
Mhm.
but that's all for the purpose of holding a high standard across the board, right?
Yep.
And again, just like if you're having trouble with your own jujitsu, maybe you seek out private lessons. I feel like that's kind of what they were looking for. Somebody who had experience in teaching all of the curriculums, um, being around just operational side of like, hey, like, you know, class schedules work better this way. You know what I mean? Maybe don't put all these classes together. Or yeah, maybe you should have reflex development on this day versus this day. Or you know what? Kill those morning classes because they're not serving you. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
Don't open up another women empowered because we don't even have that enough students to do that. Just those kind of logistical things.
Yeah.
And even like, okay, do we give this kid a stripe or do we not give this kid a stripe? And we're like, okay, well, usually this is what the case scenario is for that. So that's what I think they were looking for because,
Structure.
being all the way out in the Middle East, it's hard to absorb all of that just coming for 2, 3 days at a time or a week at a time. So I went out there.
I actually just want to say something real quick,
Yeah.
Gilbert, just because I don't want to lose it. And it kind of expounds on what you just said there because they're so far away from headquarters. And I've had conversations with instructors here in the States that aren't close to GU. Man, if you're not actively visiting or hopping on the Zooms or at
Yeah.
least, communicating with, like you said, the logistics side of it, it's very easy to stray away from that, that product that we put out. So huge shout out to Bahrain for wanting to not only be good, but be great in that sense. So, anyways, things I just wanted to add that. So I think that's amazing when owners, especially in any type of network or group, they want to be so like they see what a great product is, but then they want
Yeah.
to try to emulate it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so that's part of the reason why they did take me out there. And um, it's kind of funny that now that you mentioned that, when I did go out there, um, I was watching the guys teach jujitsu, and I was like, these guys are good. Like
Yeah.
they know what they're doing. So like
SPF was
maybe
good.
it
SPF
was
was
great,
yeah.
what I'm like, what do they need me for?
Yeah.
And so yeah, again, maybe them, they just were a little bit like, again, going back, it's like you just don't know what you don't know,
Yeah.
right? And so they probably believed like, okay, I could do better, than they are, but not true. I suppose that should, if there are any other CTC owners out there who are not black belts yet and you're just getting started, like, trust me, like, I've seen so many capable blue, purple, brown belts, like, teaching jujitsu, like, at an amazing level. So you guys, like, just keep doing your thing.
Yeah.
Um, I think that's part of the beauty of what we do, right? As far as like Gracie University goes. But yeah, I went out there and it was quite an experience, like big culture shock. But luckily, Bahrain versus the other Gulf Coast countries like Saudi Arabia, and Dubai and uh, you know Kuwait. Bahrain has a big international presence because there's a American naval base there.
Yep.
So luckily, many of the students at the original location were American. And so I wasn't too much like uh, fish out of water over there. So it was nice to be able to connect with Americans over there, but also be integrated with the local people. Um, and so yeah, it was fun. I was doing my thing out there, and after about 6 months, that's when they added in Josh to come and help. I don't remember if it was like the original plan or they started to add it later, but they wanted to have two black belts there, essentially to kind of just keep the schedule even more open,
Yeah.
Um, and I had known Josh prior to that, like just from him visiting um, headquarters, like how you do.
Hmm.
Um, but it's not like we were buds that were like talking all the time. But it turned out that way. I still talk to him to this day, which is, one of the things of the experience I'm so grateful for.
Hmm.
So he and I were teaching together for a while, and it's kind of interesting. Um,
Was there any friction when you guys taught or just like
well,
flowed naturally?
that's exactly what I was about to touch on because, you know, the way that we're taught to instruct by
Yeah.
Human Henner, there's a certain way to do it.
Sure.
And you mentioned sliced presentation formula and like that. But for whatever reason, Josh and I, we just connected really well. And it's like we were basically finishing each other's sentences. We definitely gave way for each other as far as like, okay, I know that if I don't say something, he's going to cover it. And right now, I can withhold this information because he's probably about to talk about it in a second. You know what I mean? And it was almost like too easy at
Yeah.
one point. Not that it was like a bad thing, but it was like,
Yeah.
I'm going to work with this other black belt. Like, we're teaching combatives, and it's just so low stress. And, you know, I mean, it was almost like, I guess, overkill, overpower. You know what I mean? Like having two black belts teach at the same time. But it was fun. I suppose like, if anyone's ever seen Hedon and Henner teach together, which I feel like it's becoming a little bit more rare and rare. They used to do it more often,
Sure.
but if you watch those videos, those Grace University videos, you can see how like the energy between them is like so high, and it's just like amazing rapport between them. And I felt like with Josh, like we kind of got close to that level. You know what I mean? Which is very fun for me. And it's not always the case. There's no disrespect to any of the other people I'm teaching with. You know
Yeah.
what I
Yeah. Yeah.
mean? But sometimes like that, just like that kind of stuff it's pretty special. And he and I, towards the end of our time in Bahrain, we were like, well, why don't we just do something together? Like, why don't we like, if we go back, like if I go back to America, like, like we should just try to start something up. Unfortunately, it didn't work.
Yeah.
But fortunately for him, he was able to go back home to the UK, and he's married with a kid now, and I'm very happy for him. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it was cool. It was a great experience.
Yeah, you
But
touched
that
on when you guys were teaching together, like with the SPF and the slice presentation formula. Um, I know for myself, anytime that I get a chance to, teach alongside Howard, my instructor,
yeah.
it's interesting how you said it does flow, and it's kind of like so. Like without saying it, there is a pecking order in a sense. So in this case, you guys are both black belts, but I guess sometimes sometimes without speaking, like like okay, this guy's more experienced, he's good, like whatever the reason is. But that's awesome that like instantly like, you guys had that connection, and I know for myself, anytime I'm around any other certified instructor, I'm always thinking like how good is their SPF? You know what I mean? So it's almost like I would say they know it, but I'm sure maybe in the beginning there was some reservations like, okay, is Josh's SPF as good as mine? And then he did. You're like, okay, yeah, he's good. And
It's so interesting you say that. The question is like, oh, is their SPF good or not? And generally, from my experience,
I'm sure you think that sometimes, right? I don't know.
but so it's so amazing because that's why I truly believe in what we're doing at Gracie University, as far as like people need to be instructed on how to instruct because I've taught around the world, but I've visited schools around the US. I My best friend who is now doing jujitsu was training at a CTC in Singapore, no longer a CTC, but it was a CTC at one point. So I visited him out there twice, and their teaching is amazing over there. I've been to Japan. The teaching is amazing over there. So it's just like
Yeah,
it's amazing. The level that people can instruct across the board. And I think, the way we do it, the way we teach, how you and I learn is it's a learned skill because
yeah,
there's a lot of people out there who are great instructors, but maybe they're just saying the things that they know. Not that that's wrong, but
yeah,
we really take a tactical, technical approach to teaching.
yeah,
Like say this at the appropriate time. Don't say this yet, or say this so that they're prepared for it later, right? As an actual skill. And so I think what you're kind of alluding to, and like maybe what I was as well, is that, when you're teaching with another high level instructor, not high level belt, a
hmm,
person that's been doing it for a while, there's like that mutual respect that you have with each other, very much just like doing jujitsu in general, but like you trust that they're going to cover the things that you don't. So it's then you end up teaching the students as a committee,
hmm,
where you don't feel like, like I got to make sure I say all these things, or I don't want to say it wrong, or, because your guy who you're teaching with has your back,
yep,
right? And so you can just freely speak what's on your mind. Hey, do this, 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 and this. And then you're not offended. You're not worried if the other person's like, hey, and you know what? Also, like, do this too. And you're like, oh, yeah, that's awesome. I
yep.
forgot to say that, So I love that part. And, you know, again, no disrespect to anybody else. Um, but yeah, I think that's definitely a special thing that maybe doesn't happen that often, but maybe also it doesn't need to happen.
Yeah.
But it's cool. It's cool.
No, it's very cool that you had a chance to experience that. And then, touching on your overall experience with Bahrain and, those guys, like, huge shout out to them, for taking care of you and just also trusting you with, yeah, with your level of jujitsu, because I'm sure there was some reservations on their part, but ultimately it really, like that product that you guys both gave, Josh and yourself, man, that just had to be an amazing time. And then when you transitioned back to the States, and so like I know you touched on Pasadena and the
Hmm.
other certified training center. So typically, Gilbert, like, what's your schedule like for the week? So like I know
Yeah.
you're busy teaching and you're also training, but like if you don't mind, like talk about like a day in the life of Gilbert
Yeah.
and when you find time to do jujitsu, of course, but also find time for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. So, um, yeah. So just to kind of wrap up Bahrain, it was a great experience, but at the end of the day, I basically live in Los Angeles, California,
Yeah, it's not home.
and
Yeah,
it's hard to beat. It's hard to beat for sure. There's many things about living in LA that I like, closer to my family and all that kind of stuff. So
sure.
ultimately, I chose, you know what? It was fun out here, but I don't see myself living out in the Middle East for the rest of my life, being so far away from home. So I came back home.
Yeah.
Um, and I don't regret that decision. I love LA. I love training at headquarters and all of that. But yeah, I was kind of floating around for a while after coming back from Bahrain. I wasn't sure, like, excuse me. I've always had once you reach a black belt level, I think one of the goals is to kind of do your own thing,
Yeah.
like have your own kind of school or something like that. But for me, it's like my goal, sorry, my main objective is truly sharing jujitsu with people, sharing the things that I know with people, and all the other stuff that maybe go along with operating a school. I'm not as strong or comfortable with. But who knows? Maybe one day I'll get to that level. It's always in the back of my head to do that.
Yeah.
But I actually started teaching up in Santa Clarita, which is, I live in Burbank. It's maybe another 20-ish miles north, 25 miles north of here. And I was teaching out there with my buddy Jason Shaughnessy. He had a small school. Um, and it was really for me, like not for financial reasons. Of course, you need to survive. But again, it's just to keep my teaching, jujitsu teaching sword sharp, to get those reps in, like, if you don't teach combatives for a month, like you're a little rusty when you come back. So
Yeah. That's
for my
crazy
own,
too, man. Yeah, it's so true.
and I just experienced that over this holiday break. I taught for the first time on Monday, and I was like, oof. I was like, oof, that was a little rough,
Yeah.
And so, you got to get your reps back in. But so I was teaching up in Santa Clarita, just to like, again, for my own sake. But I like Jason is like a good friend of mine. I really like that guy. Um, and I wasn't really working that much. And so I was like, unfortunately, his school is still growing. And so financially, I was like, okay, like I should probably do a little bit more. I don't know what that meant.
Sure.
But I still love teaching. And Henner, also at the same time, Henner had some things in the work for me, which kind of fell through. I'm not mad about that. But all that to say that, my life was kind of just up and down until I kind of, you know, how it is on the Grace University website. You can look at all the little locations.
Yeah.
And so there was one in Pasadena, which is about 11 miles east of me. So not that far away.
Yeah.
And so for all the people, like I had been commuting to headquarters to train most of my entire career. And that could easily in LA take you an hour and a half just
Oh,
one
easily.
way.
With
Right.
traffic? Oh my goodness.
Right. So, I sacrificed. I did what I need to do to learn and do my jujitsu. And also prior to all this, I began my teaching in Beverly Hills at our Beverly Hills location, which is same way, even though distance-wise it's closer, easily take an hour to
Yeah.
get to.
Yeah.
So once I saw that Pasadena was opening up, and like I even saw like a little temporary Instagram page with nothing on it, and I was like, what is this place? I'm like, who owns this? I'm like, I don't
Yeah.
know who's here. Um, so finally I was like, okay, let me just like hit this person up, whoever it is. Turns out it was this guy named Fred,
Yeah.
great guy.
Yep.
He came from another organization. He was a brown belt, but he was opening up the school. And I was just like, hey, it's cool to have a CTC that's literally, 14 minutes from my house.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's like a dream, like after, so many years of commuting. Um, and so I went over there and I was just like hanging out, doing the class. And then he finally was like, hey, how do you feel about teaching here? And I was like, I wasn't even considering that. You know what I mean? And so that was a blessing, to now like be able to share jujitsu just like a few miles down from my house in the way that I know how to do it. Um, and so now I stopped teaching at Santa Clarita for a little bit, but I'm back there and I'm happy to be at both places. But yeah, I can say one more other little thing,
Sure.
um, which is I'm back in school. That's another story. I'm studying to be a radiologic technologist, fancy word for a person that takes x-rays of people and CT scan.
Nice.
Um, so I'm doing that now. But prior to being back into school, which is taking up all of my time, um, you know, it was a pretty chill lifestyle, like to be honest. Like teach jujitsu a couple of days a week, not till the late afternoon. You don't gotta set an alarm. Um,
Oh, dude, that's
go
the best.
go to
That's the
head
best.
go to headquarters
Uh-huh.
and just chill all day. And you know, it was comfortable. I was very happy. Um, but sometimes, like I would have 3 days off, 4 days off of work, At one point when I wasn't working at Santa Clarita, I was only teaching 2 days a week and I would have 5 days off of work.
Yeah.
And while for some people, like that's amazing, which it kind of was, at sometimes I'm just like sitting, I'm like, okay, I could be doing more with my life. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
I can do
Uh,
something.
right. And so that's kind of just what led me to go back to school. And, not that um, I could just be teaching jujitsu for the rest of my life, just like that. But just as something else, something different, maybe a little kind of a plan B if I need it, because, we don't know what's going to happen in the future. And so I'm working on that now and still teaching jujitsu at the same time, which is again a blessing because a lot of my classmates can't find jobs that
Yeah.
fit with the school schedule. So I can easily do my schooling and studying, and then go teach jujitsu at the end of the day. And actually, I do um, really at this point in my life because school is quite stressful and it's pretty hard. I do actually like having work because I'll say I'm good at it, right? And it does like force me to like really focus in and lock in on my studies when I have to, right?
Yeah.
Because I know things have a time frame, and I think I need to get things done. Plus, with work, then you're like, okay, like I got to lock in right now, study for an hour, do this homework, whatever it is, because I got to work at 4 o'clock. So yeah, that's it. That's kind of my life right now, and hopefully, the goal is keep teaching jujitsu as I am now, a couple days a week, um, and have this career doing X-rays on the side, and I could do both together, um, and they won't compete with each other. And
Yeah.
so that's it. That's me. That's my jujitsu life right now.
Man, that's so awesome, dude. And it was just a nice way of how you round that off and how you kind of, said like that's where my life is now.
Yeah.
So it's like a continuation of what to come. Man, Gilbert, I gotta say, like this conversation has been awesome. I really appreciate you like breaking down so going back in time, like how you talking about like the mindset and where you are now to compared to where you were. And huge shout out to your cousin for introducing
Yeah.
you to jujitsu. And then, I mean, huge shout out to you, not only for being on today's show, but just your willingness to not give up in especially in an art where it's interesting and obviously, we know this to be true, but an art that's supposed to be for everyone, but also has the highest, dropout rate. So we kind of talked about
Sure.
how GU and how it's structured really is, beneficial, and not just for the student, but for the instructor. And then you touched on your time in Bahrain. And again, like huge shout out to those guys out there, Josh Taylor, which I would love to have him on the podcast. So
Yeah,
I think after the show or once like this is uploaded, I'm gonna share this link with him and be like, hey, I just had Gilbert on. I want to have you on now. So
yeah.
maybe that might spark his interest. And then I also appreciate you, talking about where you are now with life and kind of bouncing back and forth, man. Um, yeah, Gilbert. So before you go, I always let my like each guest kind of give a shout out to anyone out there that kind of comes to mind. So is there anyone that you would like to give thanks to where you are now? And it doesn't have to be everyone, of course, but I know it's kind of a loaded question, but anyone that you would want to just, say, man, like thanks to this person or like whoever it is, bro.
I mean, just right off the bat, I mean, I've maybe done a bad job at this in my past, but I really got to shout out to my parents, like first and foremost, because
Oh yeah.
they supported me a lot and they supported me into, allowing me to do this as a career. So, of course, them, you can't forget about your parents. But I mean, who I'm gonna say right now, like Hidon and Henner, of course, like
Yeah.
they're just such an inspiration. And you know, they just have always them two supported me throughout this and given me opportunities this whole time. And so I can only give all the thanks to them and everything that they've done to give me a career in jujitsu. And then, like I said, the reason why I teach jujitsu now, the reason why I pay it forward is all those guys down there at headquarters, you know, who just helped me throughout the years, who like I'm teaching side by side with now. And at one point, they were my instructors. You know
Yeah.
the guys, Alex
Yeah.
Stewart, Sam Fernandez, Guido, the list
Yeah.
goes on and on.
Yeah.
No disrespect to the guys that I forget, but they know who they are. Um, all those guys. It's crazy. Like I said, I just remember one time, I don't didn't do a lot of teaching at headquarters. I did more at Beverly Hills, but like I remember one time I was teaching combatives with Alex Stewart, just randomly, and I was like sitting there, I'm like, wow, this is crazy. Like he was my instructor before, and now we're teaching together, and so that's like kind of a beautiful thing for me. But yeah, those are those guys, and thanks to you, bro. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, man. It was an honor to have you on. And, for anyone out in the California area, like, you can make sure to check out Torrance, Grace University and Pasadena as well, and Santa Clarita, as you said. Gilbert, where
Wait,
can people
sorry,
find
wait.
you?
I
Sorry,
just
go
want to
ahead.
shout out one more person, and
Yeah,
I don't
absolutely.
want to forget this because this I also kind of underrate this person. There was one person that really pulled me back into jujitsu and made me think about jujitsu differently, and that guy's Jay Wong. I don't know if you know
I
him.
know the name. He's a black belt, right?
He is also a black
Yep.
belt.
Yep.
Our kind of joke is we call him Jay Danaher, as in like John Danaher,
Yeah,
Jay
yeah, yeah.
Danaher Wong, because he is just that kind of encyclopedia of jujitsu. And I remember one time when I was at Beverly Hills, he came and visited, and he just, again, I was trying to do all this stuff, and then he was like, you just kind of chill, and then I was like, oh, okay, like I guess I can. So he's been a close friend of mine ever since. That's the only other person I can think of.
Yeah.
Um, but sorry, go ahead, please.
No,
Like,
all good. Yeah, so shout out to Jay as well. And I
yeah,
just wanted to give you a chance. Where can people, like, where can the viewers find you, or if they want to get in touch with you over social media?
yeah, yeah. So I'm not like the biggest social media person. I'm not like trying to become some jujitsu influencer or anything out there trying to get sponsorships. But, you know, I post some jujitsu related content on my social media, but I also post, uh, you know, all the regular personal stuff on there too.
Yeah.
Um, but my Instagram handle, Gilbert R, all one word. I've got some, fun little jujitsu videos on there. about like how I like to do my jujitsu. So you guys go check it out. And maybe, I could put some more effort and get someone to record me. And if people like it, then I would definitely love to do it a little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. Man, Gilbert, again, thank you so much for giving us your time. And for those out there watching this, thank you for tuning in. And Gilbert, again, it was an honor to have you on and hope you enjoy the rest of your day, bro.
Yeah, well, thank you so much.
Absolutely.